Hello and welcome back everybody to the Foodbuild factory, where today we're going to take a look at the private. The private is going to be my next entry in my No RNG series. For those of you who already know the series, this is a series of little videos that I make where I'm trying to come up with a suitable build within Fallout 76 for basically every single major weapon class, meaning shotgunners, commandos and so on, that doesn't rely on random drops from the purveyor or from legendary enemies, but rather focuses on either using non-legendary equipment that you can buy in certain vendors or get in loot chests, and quest rewards. So not always I'm going to use quest rewards, but on this occasion I'm trying to do a heavy gunner, and in my opinion a heavy gunner is probably one of the best builds you can do if you really don't want to invest too much time in this game. If you just want to hop into this game, want to get a solid character running that's capable of doing a lot of damage, tanking quite some damage, and overall doing well in the game, a power armor heavy gunner is probably one of the best classes you can do. Pretty much what this is about is, well, heavy gunners are already kind of, in a way, the best builds in this game. They're sharing their space with stealth commandos, but as of late, heavy gunners have a bit more versatility in a way that, yeah, you can freely roam nuke zones, and most importantly, you're not having to change your build around in order to do daily ops, which, if you are a stealth commando, you have to do some adjustments, in most cases, in order to do the daily ops. But other than that, yeah, they're sharing their spot as the best build with stealth commandos. So what makes heavy gunners so good in this game, in my opinion, is that not only do they have very good damage output, but they're also pretty efficient when it comes to ammo consumption, and that's not exactly something you're thinking about if you think about a heavy gunner. Oh, we accidentally messed with the Brotherhood here. If you think about a heavy gunner, your first instinct would probably be to think that it's hard to keep up with bullets, and while it's true that you do run through a lot of bullets, it's pretty easy to craft them compared to most other bullets. And also you do just have very ammo efficient weapon options. For example, the Gatling gun is just one of the most ammo efficient weapons in the game. 5mm ammo is easy to craft in masses, and you do run through very little. However, on this occasion we are using a legendary 50 cal machine gun, which isn't quite as efficient when it comes to ammo. The main factor here is probably even steel, not lead. It's not hard to obtain the necessary lead. I think I just checked it. Without any perk investments, you're crafting like 150 cal rounds every time you do, and you need like 10 lead and 40 steel. So really the limiting factor here will be steel. However, even though you pretty much never hoard a lot of steel usually, it's very easy to farm steel in masses by just using one point investment into scrapper perk. And basically what you do is you just clear one area where there are scorched or super mutants, basically any enemy that carries weapons on them. And once you're done, you just gather every weapon, pull them to the nearest crafting station, scrap them down with the scrapper perk equipped, and you typically get around between 300 and 500. With an unyielding character, maybe you can get even 600 in some locations. But yeah, you can easily farm large amounts of steel, so that's not really all that bad once you invested into that perk. On this occasion, oh hey there, on this occasion the Scorched Beast decided to land very quickly, and as you can see here, this is definitely one of the more powerful builds you can use, you can make by just using non-legendary equipment and quest rewards, for the simple reason that the heavy gunner class has the option to use this here weapon. It's called the Final Word, and in my opinion it's one of the best, if not the best, quest reward you ever got in this game. The only rewards that could match it in terms of utility are probably the Chinese stealth armor, but it's armor, so that's a different story. And the only other weapon that was on par in terms of its combination of effects, in my opinion, was the Unstoppable Monster. However, it wasn't really a quest reward, it was a reward for a limited time daily mission, or daily yeah, I think it was a daily mission back when survival servers were a thing, and at some point it returned, I'm not sure where. However, it's not a typical quest reward. This year is more typical. You just do the quest line for Beckett. It's one of the allies you can have for your camp, and well, at the end you get the Final Word. It is an anti-armor faster fire rate 50 cal with 250 extra damage resistance while reloading. And while the 250 damage resistance while reloading perk isn't the best in the game, the other two effects are very good. And for those of you who are more familiar with the game, you know that anti-armor faster fire rate on most weapons is a combination that is very expensive, very hard to get, because people pay a pretty hefty price for it on commando weapons or heavy weapons. So it's definitely one of the best weapons, in my opinion, that you can just get. And combine that with the fact that heavy gunners are already pretty strong as they are. Yeah, this, if I had to advise you to use one character if you really want to start the game fresh and are open to all opinions, yeah, I guess this would probably be, at least in terms of equipment, one of the best builds you can come up with, also in terms of utility, not only damage. Now, another big part of this build is power armor, obviously. Now, one thing first, in most cases, yeah, going with power armor is definitely the go-to approach when it comes to heavy weapons. So, the simple fact that stabilized is a thing, it's a perk that gives you extra armor penetration and accuracy with heavy weapons when you're in power armor. And that perk is extremely potent. It's very great. The extra armor penetration is a big benefit, and overall it just gives you extra damage. And while it may not give you extra damage on certain enemies, the type of enemies that aren't armored in this game or are low armored are the weak ones anyway, so you don't really need a damage buff against things like these reds or I think Scorched. Lower level Scorched are having not a lot of armor. Well, anyways, anti-armor is one of the better effects in the game in terms of damage, and therefore, yeah, the combination here works very well, especially since we do have the anti-armor perk on our weapon as well. So the way these two effects combine, I'm talking about the 50% armor penetration from our legendary effect and the 45% I think it is from stabilized. The way they combine is not multiplicatively, so you don't add up to like 90% armor penetration or something, but what happens is that, well, you shoot an enemy, let's say he has 100 damage resistance, and if you shoot it, your legendary effect on the weapon ignores 50% of that armor. So it's basically like you would be shooting a enemy with 50 damage resistance, and on top of that, this 50 damage resistance is then reduced by another 45. Well, let's just check, just so I don't talk shit here. Here it is. Yeah, 45. The 50 damage resistance you do have left are then divided into two pieces, and yeah, you get another 45% off of that. So around about you'd do like, please don't be embarrassing here, but I think 24 damage resistance that's left or something. So overall, rather than having a 95% armor penetration, you do have a 75% roundabout. But it's still very good, and combining the two effects is not overkill in my opinion. It's definitely worth it. So, as you can see here, we're shooting through enemies quite a lot. It's definitely an easier time. For those of you who watched my other no RNG videos, yeah, we definitely have an easier time this time around. This build is very solid, and overall, other than adding some legendary perks and maybe some good backup weapons, there's not a lot of room for improvement, honestly. Like, obviously you can go for a Junkie's character or a Bloodied character, but I'd argue that a power armor heavy gunner using an anti-armor faster fire rate 50 cal is definitely something you could see on a lot of high level players. So this is easy to get hands on. The power armor we are using here, let's go in third person for a while, is the Excavator power armor, and I'm not a particular fan of the Excavator armor. You definitely feel that it protects you less than other versions. I personally do like T51B, has a lot of damage resistance and energy resistance once you get access to legendary perks. Isn't all that necessary anymore if you have power armor, for the simple fact that the legendary perk exists that how's it called? Not charged. Damn, I can't remember. Well, anyways, there's a perk that lets you recharge your fusion cores when you're taking energy damage, and also it heals you. So yeah, that basically makes energy resistance kind of redundant in my opinion. So yeah, T51B would be, in my opinion, the best pick here. The reason I went for Excavator armor is for a simple reason that it's very accessible. Like, I think the earliest versions are around level 25, maybe 20, but anyways, somewhere among those lines. And it has an inherent bonus, which is something that would be nice to see on more power armor pieces. But what I'm talking about is, once you're wearing a full suit of Excavator power armor, you get an individual 100 extra carry weight, which is nice, especially if you're new to the game and you kind of need to get into the habit still of what to carry, what to throw away. It can be a bit tedious to manage your weight, and having the Excavator armor is a good pick here. If you see here, I do have 345 carry weight. However, we could boost it up by another 100 if we used calibrated shocks. Now, this is something I would advise you to do if you go for T51B. Try to get yourself some high-level player or something who can give you calibrated shocks for your legs, and use T51B, and you would basically have the same carry weight than I have at the moment. Now, obviously, that means we could get way higher with this here Excavator armor. However, I found that 345 carry weight is already quite a lot. Keep in mind, we would carry some heavy weapons, and most likely, if you would start a new game, you would want to, yeah, fiddle around a bit with different weapons, not only use this here. So there's a good possibility you want to carry more than this weapon, and we don't have the perk, the bare arms perk, so yeah, you can definitely need the carry weight. And another great thing, and what makes this power armor so accessible, is there's a very easy way to get it. There's a fixed quest. Once you finish the quest, you will have the ability to then craft your own power armor. You might have to farm for some resources, but overall that shouldn't be too hard. And especially once it comes to T51B or T60, yeah, the mods are kind of hard to get. Or, for example, another good thing I was thinking about was ultrasight power armor. I do quite like that. However, yeah, without calibrated shocks, you really want to have some carry weight here. That's why I went for the Excavator armor. The other power armors would also fit more into the military newcomer vibe that we want to go for here. However, with the skin here we have, I think it's fine. Now, that was about it in terms of gameplay. I hope you did enjoy it so far, and as you saw, I think I didn't didn't make an overstatement when I said that this is the most powerful build so far in my No RNG series. So let's get into the specifics here. Now, first and foremost, our weapon, as I called here, the final word: faster fire rate, anti-armor effect, and 250 damage resistance while reloading. Now, the only thing we do have here is a heavy barrel. I think, if I recall correctly, the only other mod this weapon has is a prime receiver, which I didn't have, and I think on the 50 cal it's definitely one of those weapons where the prime receiver is not as intuitive as on other weapons, for the simple reason that you need violet flux, if I remember correctly, to craft ultrasight rounds. So it's a bit hard to feed, and the payoff isn't as great as on other weapons. So I think the standard receiver is very much fine. The heavy barrel is nice, gives you some extra damage. So that's that. Also, condition holds very good. I do mean we do have gunsmith, I'm gonna show that soon. But yeah, condition is great. We started with slightly more condition than we have now. The fact you're chewing through enemies pretty quickly makes it very efficient when it comes to condition. So, onto our equipment here in terms of armor. We do have this assembled US Army excavator torso. We do have a core assembly plan, which gives us faster action point refresh, but that's in no way necessary. There's not a lot we're using our action points here just for sprinting around every now and then, but we're not using bats, we're not jumping around a lot, so overall we can live with less AP refresh. So a completely unmodded suit would do the job. Now you will see that here we do have a excavator armor with the sensor array, which gives us extra perception. That's completely useless for our character. It's just a leftover from another build I did, and once again you could do fine with a complete non-modded version of this helmet. Then here we do have our arms, which are non-modded. They are completely standard. Well, except for the skin, but that doesn't do anything in terms of gameplay. And here I think I shown those legs off in another video. They do have the explosive vents on, which do nothing in this game. I do carry this set for a long while with me, and I put on those explosive vents soon after the game came out, thinking it would be cool. But yeah, keep in mind those don't do anything. You want calibrated shocks, however. I never really bothered to invest into those, but yeah, as I said, with calibrated shocks you would have another 100 carry weight if you have them on both legs. So that's it for equipment, and now we're going to take a look at our effects here. Now here we can see it, the excavator bonus for another 100 carry weight. We do have two illnesses here, but they are pretty much not important. They're not part of our build. We do have perfect bubblegum, but that just made our first. And yeah, I see we do have more charisma from a sweet roll I just ate, but yeah, I think you can imagine how the gameplay would have been without those 3 extra charisma, don't you think? We are fully fed, which I do kind of like on this character for a simple bit more HP, but that's about it. I don't care for disease resistance. And yeah, the extra strength is nice, but we don't need it. Now, in terms of mutations, we are fairly low. We do have Adrenal Reaction, Carnivore, Marsupial, and Speed Demon. And you don't even need the Carnivore, for example, or Adrenal Reaction. Like, I do just want to have Marsupial and Speed Demon on all the time. They're just universally beneficial. Especially Speed Demon has pretty much no downside, in my opinion. More hunger and thirst, especially nowadays since you don't get debuffs, isn't the problem. I mean, intelligence -4, it does hurt a little, but we do have kind of high intelligence, so we can live with it. And well, carnivore or herbivore, you pretty much know the drill. It increases your benefits from either meat or vegetables. So yeah, there's not a particular effect we're looking for here. Like on certain builds I do like herbivore, for example, for extra crit damage, with things like blight soup, or carnivore is especially good for melee characters because a lot of good food items give good melee buffs. But on this occasion we just have it here because I didn't bother to remove it, and you could use it for some things like glowing, or not glowing, red stack, grilled red stack, which gives you 40 extra carry weight, even more, but that's neither here nor there. Adrenal reaction is nice to have. We're not particularly worried about dying, so minus 50 maximum HP doesn't hurt all that much, and since we're going down with our health during fights, yeah, doing more damage then is never a bad thing. So overall you can see we're not heavily relying on mutations, which is another nice thing, especially if you are a newcomer. I feel it more and more hard to find vendors, player vendors who sell serums. I mean, every now and then you have one that has tons of them, and they're never going to be all that expensive. However, yeah, if you're particularly searching for one, it can be hard. However, that's about it. So that was it in terms of our equipment and our effects, and now let's take a look at our perks. First and foremost, I want to show off our legendary perks, and that's right, we don't have any. That's something I failed to do in my first no RNG character, but I kind of regret it because, yeah, I really want to make a build that's easy to recreate here, and using legendary perks can really alter a character a lot. So for example, things like follow through or taking one for the team can really make a big difference in terms of your damage output. So for a newcomer it could be hard to see how you would perform, and therefore I decided to, yeah, just not use any legendary perks on this build here. But obviously you could improve your build by a lot, but don't worry, I'm soon going to make a endgame heavy gunner character, my endgame heavy gunner character, that's going to have all the legendary perks. Now let's get into it. We do have strength 14, we do have master heavy gunner, and expert heavy gunner. These are kind of obvious. We want to have the best damage we can get out of our heavy guns, and those three perks are pretty self-explanatory. More damage with our heavy guns, pretty simple, so they are here. Bandolier I do definitely recommend here, especially with heavy guns. You want to carry a large amount of ammo. Now obviously you can go around with like 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 50 cal rounds, and that's going to be enough for a while. You can craft new ones, but I feel like overall stocking up over time is a nice idea. And for example, 5mm ammo weighs absolutely nothing once you have the bandolier perk equipped, so you can just carry as much as you want, which is nice. And I actually do have another carry weight perk here, traveling pharmacy. Now it's not necessary, I do kind of like it because I do have a lot of stimpaks on me, and those can really weigh you down. Also cams can weigh you down a lot, so traveling pharmacy in my opinion a good perk. Another good benefit would be, and probably one that could be more beneficial to you if you don't want to recreate the character, another suitable pick would be bare arms, because 90% less weight on heavy weapons is extremely potent. Now it's not like with the legendary effect that just reduces your base weight of the weapon but doesn't reduce any modifications, which makes it rather unintuitive. But bare arms really reduces the weight you see on a weapon by 90%, which is ridiculous. So that actually, if you equip that perk, you can carry heavy guns like they are nothing. Like, yeah, they're comparable to pistols. Seeing heavy weapons, seeing 50 cals and such with 4 pounds of weight is pretty amazing. And I guess you would rather have more weight in heavy weapons than in stimpaks on you, so I would recommend using bare arms over traveling pharmacy. There would be other picks if you don't need any. carry weight perks at all. Blocker would be a very good fit. You could use lock and load, however I always found that 30% faster reload for 3 points of investment is kind of high, since for some reason heavy guns in this game reload rather quickly. Like, they're really comparable to other weapons and you simply don't have to reload all that often. Your magazine size is most of the time really high. There's just certain weapons where I do recommend it, like for example if you're using the LMG a lot, then lock and load would be a good idea in my opinion. But if you're using things like the 50 cal or the Gatling gun or even the minigun, those have relatively fast reloads anyways, and they do have a lot of magazine size. So I would go for carry weight perks, but that's your decision. In perception we only have 1 point. Since we can't go lower, we don't need perception at all. We never use VATS, and the compass isn't really a necessary thing in this game in my opinion. So we used it 1 perception for concentrated fire. No particular need here. The only thing I could imagine is maybe once in a while you have a particular problem with a bigger enemy, maybe a sheep squatch or a scorch beast. You could target specific limbs and cripple their limbs with the use of one gun army, so better than having nothing. And there's not really anything you could need. If you are in doubt and definitely don't wanna use VATS ever, then just take 1 rank of glow sight. Bit of additional damage in certain situations, never hurts. Now onto endurance. We are at fairly low 6, but we do make the most out of it. We do use fireproof. We don't have access to a dense chest piece since we are in power armor, so a bit of explosive resistance in this game is always nice to have, for the simple reason that Scorch Beast blasts, like their sonic attacks, count as explosive damage. So if you have fireproof or dense chest piece, those are completely nullified. They're just unnerving, and I feel they're stressful, like you don't see anything and such, but they're not going to hurt you anymore. You don't run the risk of dying to nearby exploding cars or super mutant suiciders, so fireproof is a nice pick here. And life giver, well, it's just some extra health, mainly to top out our adrenal reaction mutation. Not completely counter it, but you get the point. Onto charisma. This build is designed to be a lone wanderer, so as a solo player you want that lone wanderer perk for extra damage resistance, and not damage resistance, but you actually avoid 20% damage overall, which is very powerful, and you do gain better AP refresh. Once again, like with our core assembly plan, we don't really need AP all that much, but having it is better than not having it, especially if you're running somewhere. If you want to go in a team, there's a very easy thing you can do. It's just using inspirational for more XP, which is always nice, and strange in numbers. Not that you particularly need it, but it's just 1 perk point investment, and jumping even a bit higher, running even a bit faster, or reloading faster. You're not running faster as far as I remember. It's nice. Adrenal reaction is a bit more powerful, so for 1 point of perk investment, strange in numbers is a really good perk, and then you can just fit all those 7 charisma perks. The important thing here is tenderizer. Tenderizer, you often see it in especially on min-maxed characters. Tenderizer is there pretty much always. It's just a good perk. It's still multiplicative, so those 10% extra damage seem less than they actually are compared to other things. Like, for example, Tenderizer is definitely way more powerful than Bloody Mess, for example, which is a bit unintuitive, but that's the way it is. And since we always use multiple shots, we're not designed to one-shot anything, so yeah, it's pretty much always in effect. Therefore, Tenderizer is a no-brainer on this occasion. In intelligence, we are fairly high at 13, which is something you see pretty often with power armor characters. Now, what we want here is batteries included, gunsmith, and stabilized. Stabilized, I already talked about the perk during the video. More gun accuracy, and more importantly, more armor penetration with your heavy weapons while you are in power armor. You're always fighting in power armor, and 45% armor penetration is a lot, so therefore we want to have that perk. Gunsmith, keep our guns running, plain and simple. it's nice to have, nice to not always repair your weapons. There's certain heavy weapons that go down pretty fast. For example, if you're getting hands on a Gatling plasma, I feel like those are getting destroyed relatively fast. And I'm not even talking about the legacy ones, by the way. I'm just talking about plain and simple Gatling plasmas, which are nice weapons, but I think they can go down pretty fast. And yeah, it's similar with some weapons, so having gunsmith never a bad idea. And batteries included, well, they count for fusion cores, and it really depends. If you're one of those persons who feels comfortable with just running around with 3 fusion cores, which are carrying you quite a while, especially since we're not using a lot of AP, you don't need it. However, I just like to don't have to worry about fusion cores and just pick up whenever I find one, so they can gather dust in my stash box with, or not in my stash box, in my inventory with 0.3 pounds of weight. So batteries included, in my opinion, a good decision. And since this is a heavy gunner, there's quite a lot of heavy guns that use energy ammo, and as I said earlier, the Gatling plasma would be a good example here, which uses plasma cores, which are weighing quite a lot. So yeah, having batteries included is not a bad idea, in my opinion. And first aid, I had 2 points left in intelligence that I wanted to use, and since we are still using excavator power armor, we are tanky enough, so we don't really have to worry about dying during fights. But yeah, a lot of our survivability comes from using stimpaks every now and then, and having more effective stimpaks is just something that's very nice to have. Now, you can easily argue that once you're a high level, you can just use super stims or create your own super stims early on, so you could use something else yet again. However, I found it to be pretty convenient. You can even use diluted stims fairly effectively, so that's about it here. On to agility, we do have Action Boy at rank 3. I told it, we do have quite some AP refresh going on, even though we don't actually need it. However, we're shortly going to get to a point where I talk about what we're using it for. Now, we do have Bone Survivor. As I just said, we're going to keep ourselves alive with stimpaks, and this is our failsafe here. Now, we are in power armor, so if we go down to 20% health with this perk active, we do use a stimpak. Now, on certain characters, if you're not highly armored, you probably want to have it activate at rank 2 or 3, so meaning at 30 or 40%, just so your stimpak has time to react. However, in most cases, you still have some health left, and you can still take quite a lot of hits when you're at 20% health, which is the case in our occasion here. So rank 1 of Bone Survivor is definitely enough, and with rank 2 of First Aid, that means we just fight our way through enemies. We don't really have to worry about using a stimpak, and the game does it automatically for us. Now, some people argue that they run out of stimpaks. However, I think, like, well, if you're down to 20% health, you should have used one anyways, so that doesn't really make a difference, in my opinion. Now, this one here is pretty important. Well, maybe not important, but convenient. Adrenaline. Now, adrenaline, a universally good perk. You know, more damage the more you kill, and the situations in this game where you kill multiple enemies in within a minute is very often, like, except for boss fights, and even then you often have mobs running around that you can just pick up every now and then, so you can maintain the adrenaline. It's just a universally good perk. That's why we have it. And here is what I was talking about earlier, dodgy. Now, we do avoid damage by using AP. So once we're hit, we lose some AP and avoid damage. Like, what is it, 30% of the damage that's incoming? That's quite a lot, and while that doesn't help us all that much in a longer fight, now if we're getting swarmed or something, once our AP is down, we're not going to recover our AP fast enough, so this effect is always on. But what this is nice for is if we see some counterfire from range or just passing by some enemies, the perk really helps you to avoid a lot of damage. It's a good perk, however, it doesn't often fit into a character, because basically every time you want to use VATS, for example, or a jetpack, you don't really want to have dodgy, because it kind of messes with your AP bar and makes it a bit unpredictable. However, as I explained earlier, we don't really need AP during our fights. We don't use VATS, we don't want to jump around, we don't want to use a jetpack, we don't really run around all that much, just between fights where dodgy doesn't take away from our AP. So having it on this character is a kind of nice addition and definitely helps us. And in luck, we have fairly low investment. It's something you rarely see in this game. Like, pretty much all characters can greatly benefit from quite a bit of luck. However, on this occasion I felt like we don't need all that much and the points could be spared better in other regards. So we do have one gun army here, which is a very nice perk. It gives you a chance to stagger and a chance to cripple an enemy. And as you can imagine, with fast firing weapons, this works fairly well. Now, in my personal opinion, I always feel like it doesn't really work as well as it should, if you're just looking at the card. I feel like the 12% stagger chance, that's pretty accurate. Like, you really see it if you're focusing on one single enemy with a heavy gun, that they're getting staggered quite regularly. However, the cripple chance, I'm not so convinced of. It feels like it's less. Like, I mean, if you think about it, 12%, that means like on every 8 shot, usually you should cripple a limb, which 8 shots is not a lot with such a fast firing weapon with 250 clips, with 250 shots in its canister. So I'm not convinced. However, it's a good perk. It definitely helps, especially if you're fighting Scorch Beast or something. So therefore it's in here, and it fits the heavy weapon feel quite well. And last but not least, we do have Starch Genes here. This is plain and boring. It's just there so we can keep our mutations and don't get any random new ones. So that's about it. Wow, that was blinding here. Now, I hope you did enjoy the build. I'm quite pleased with how it turned out. I was fairly sure about it though. So ever since I started my no RNG series, I immediately thought about the anti-armor faster fire rate final word. And yeah, since heavy gunners usually run around in power armor, which in my opinion power armor fits perfectly into this no RNG series, there's good reasons why I didn't include it more often, but as for now, yeah, it's a good combination. I think power armor, while you can get a bit more out of regular armor in terms of legendary effects and everything, I think power armor is a good standpoint in this game. It's very solid, it's very good if you invest into it. It just has an upper roof, so to speak, which you can break by using legendary weapons, legendary armor. However, getting a good set of legendary armor is way harder than getting a good set of power armor. I mean, you know, at the time it's a bit easier to get legendary armor sets, but that's not the case for the game all of the time. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. There you can see Kent McClintock in the background, and hope to see you next time with probably the no RNG shotgunner, which will be the most challenging one so far. So keep looking forward for that. Bye.